if everything stayed the same and all the calculations were correct.
Yeah, and I think Pat did send out another sort of a spreadsheet trying to explain that 2013. And now again, that's looking, pretty far in the future. Assumptions, and Pat, to her gets credit, tends to be
Very
thorough and conservative, especially on the revenues and revenue side. The 5 mills that you mentioned for 13, if you carry this further out, would probably be true in both cases. And in the scenario 2, we would be missing the 2 mills from, if we don't enact a 2 mill increase in 11 and 12. So, it catches up to you over time.
Right. In scenario 2, right.
Yeah.
Okay. And then the only other question I did have is the projected growth that Pat had. I guess you guys had said it was an 8% projection for revenues.
Correct. From going from 2010 to 11, an 8%. That's an 8% increase. I'm looking at the lines without the millage increase.
Right.
And then she kept it flat.
Just consistent over the years. So I know the examples were the Newtown Station, Phillips Court, RCN, or some of those revenues that we benefited from, not only with that fund, but to our revenue overall. What could we plan on in 2011 or 12 that, as anyone maybe could even input, where we would gather that benefit? I know we had the discussion at the work session about, what we thought the economy would be doing. Obviously, this is not, again, an exact science. It's kind of hoping and guessing that things go the way that they have or what we can predict. But what would be an example of what we could count on? Did Pat mention that, or I don't know if I missed that, or what would be an example of that 8% carry forward as an increase? Does that make sense?
You mean just staying flat or continuing an increase?
Continuing, well, when you say 8%, it's 8% one year, and then it's not 8% the following year, it's just flat?
No, then it's flat,
Okay.
then it's 0.
Okay, got it. All right,
Yeah.
thank you. That's what I didn't understand. Okay.
So, like I said, over the weekend I was having fun with Excel spreadsheets and looking at various,
Scenarios.
optimistic and pessimistic scenarios, and you can come up with all different
Right.
kind of scenarios. But, I think, personally, I think we need to focus in on 2011 as the year, because this is the decision we're making, and I view it as a $86,000 decision, and one that, that we either save the taxpayers an increase for a year in a very tough economy, or we increase the tax millage, which will, as Bob pointed out, sort of at least get us started to be in a better space for next year. Bob, I'm making all your arguments.
Gerard, am I right that the projection for 2012 includes an increase in expenditures, but doesn't include any projected increase in earned income tax revenue or real estate transfer tax revenue? Do I read that right?
I'm sorry.
Well, Pat's projections for our potential deficit going forward in 2012.
This version.
Projects revenues in 2012 to be the same as 2011.
Right.
So it doesn't take into account the possibility that the two tax revenue sources that we as council don't really have any control over, the earned income tax and the real estate transfer tax, aren't, for these projection purposes, aren't projected to change at all.
That's correct.
So the way the borough increases earned income tax revenue is if our residents earn more money.
Right.
And we increase our real estate transfer tax revenue if houses start selling again or houses sell at higher prices.
Yeah.
But the projections don't include any increase or decrease in those revenue sources.
In 2012, no.
Right, okay.
And it also doesn't include any projections about any new development being online by then, like the Stockburger property.
Okay.
So what would happen if we did not have a tax increase this year, but anticipated that we would have, that we would push this whole thing another, to the next year? And am I understanding correctly that basically all the numbers that are on there will just be depleted by $86,000, that from the first year, if we do it on the second year?
That carries through the spreadsheet.
Right, so
Right.
just across. So right now, we have over $600,000 in a fund that's not doing anything. And if we used it this year, or going into the 2011 budget, and then the following year, we decided, well, maybe we need to have a tax increase next year, all that we really haven't lost just means that we know we're going to have to take money out of the reserve again, but we do in both scenarios. We take money out. We just don't take quite as much money out.
Right.
But we're basically down the 86 that we would have earned, as it were, by
Right.
taxing more this year. So it's not, it's just simple math. It just follows along. It's nothing that's exponential. It's not something that compounds over years. It's just a subtraction of an amount that we might have picked up with the tax increase this time. Right.
Right.
Because nothing's earning any interest sitting in a bank right now. So, pardon?
The minimus amount of interest.
That's right. That's right. We're paying them to hold our money at this point, right? Yeah. Right.
Correct.
Right. So it's just saying, okay, so we'll be down 86,000, but, you know, the hope is that the economy will pick up and continue forward, and that 86,000 may actually diminish with increased revenue by earned income tax, because people are making more. All those homes that have been sitting there for sale will sell. We'll get some transfer taxes and so on.
Right. One other piece that I wanted to mention in sort of the intro to this whole discussion was that part of the reason why we need to look at the operating reserve fund is in 2009 and 2010, we mentioned one of the things we do as a Borough is snow removal, and we had an extraordinary event at the end of December and into 2011, where I think, from my calculations anyway, we're about $150,000 over our snow budgets for those 2 years. So that's basically the $200,000 that we're going to be using from that operating reserve fund.
Mm-hmm.
So now we're in discussion as opposed to question, or? I want to thank Gerard and Bob and Pat as well. I think it's a difficult thing in this economic climate to crunch numbers, but also try and create for us a crystal ball which helps us then make a decision about not just this year, but the years that follow. But what I found at work session, and again tonight with Gerard presenting things very objectively, is the word if, used a fair amount of the time because none of us know the future.